city of New York is also silent. When is that ever true? Hi everyone, this is audap. Let's check out Vapor Trail running on the MegaSG. Hyper offense formation. Alright, what do we got here? Normal shot, rapid chop, roll. Yeah, I remember getting this game and initially being disappointed by it. Because it's a fairly short game and pretty easy. But, you know, now that I've played it, you know, years later, I really like it. I don't necessarily hate the fact that it's short now. Mainly because I have, you know, so few time for games, and it's nice to be able to see the end of a game every once in a while, which I don't normally get to do. Let's see, self, attack, fire, middle speed, Valkyrie attacker, speed low, sailing, speed high, and middle speed. Also happens to be my favorite finger. Yeah, this game is not like going to be on anybody's like classic list of games, or you know anybody's must-play list, but it is just simple fun, you know. You know, the art's good, the music's good. You know, the gameplay's real or super responsive. Sometimes, you know, a lot of times that's all I need in a game. Not necessarily need it to be much more than that. Yeah, listen to that music's great. Especially as we play it later on, at least when I get into the games that came out later for the system. You know, that were part of the later development kits. Those games strangely enough do not sound as good as the first couple of games that came out for the system. You know, when they didn't have the sophisticated, commonly shared sound banks. As soon as we made it easy for developers to, you know, pump out instruments, then they made like the worst sounding games. Pretty hilarious. I remember seeing an advertisement for this in, like, might have been Die Hard Game Fan, possibly EGM. It was advertised with another game that was from the same publisher, but I can't remember what that was. It wasn't another shooter. But that's how I initially heard of it, just from an ad. God, I don't know why the voices. I don't know why the game is so quiet. Mission complete. I shouldn't grab any more speed. We're too fast now. Can't do precise maneuvers. Wouldn't mind getting different weapon types though. I'm doing terrible. Oh. I'll be a lot more careful. Yeah, we do a lot of speed power-ups in case you were playing the slower ship. Honestly, the other game that was advertised was a side scroller. Had real distinctive looking graphics. I can't remember the name. I know, and I was looking for my copy of Wings of War, but I can't find it. I guess I'll try to cover that next week if I can find the cartridge. For some reason, I must have put that in a different box than the other games. Boy, this is pretty powerful. It's an homing missile. Ugh. Mission 2 complete. Ugh. No. Damn it. Wait. Oh, God, I wasted a lot of lives on that one. Mission tree complete. Kind of hypnotic how it looks, huh? Oh, come on. That sucked. Right in the keister. Boy, I don't know if it's good or bad to have that thing. Seems like it's not so great. Master System. You know, I didn't play a lot of the Master System. What I did play I liked, because that's where East 1 and 2 came from. Govelius I liked. If I remember right, they had the original Space Harrier on that one. I think I like that one. I don't know if I'm a fan of the system, though. I think there are definitely some games that I liked on it. But in general, you know, I don't think I have played enough of those games to really have an accurate judge of whether or not it was, like, really good. I know my initial first impression of the Master System wasn't so hot, because I think the very first game I saw on that was that Rambo game. And, you know, coming off of playing Akari Warriors, you know, Rambo wasn't like a good first impression. I mean, that's definitely not the first game I would show somebody. You know, he has these, like, these two tiny little guys, you know, in this vast field shooting stuff. But that being said, yeah, you know, that was pretty good overall. In fact, I don't think I ever owned a Master System proper. I bought the power base converter for the Model 1 Genesis, and that's where I ended up playing most of my Master System games. But again, not a lot of them. I don't know. I mean, I guess this the SG can play Master System games, so I'd have to I have to go out and try to find some. Honestly, I think they're going for some ridiculous prices, so I don't know how many of them I could get within reason. Oh, come on! Let's try the slow one. Yeah, but like I said, I mean, I didn't really get to play a whole lot of 8-bit games. You know, for the original Nintendo, I didn't own that until after I bought my Super Nintendo. And I think I bought the Super Nintendo within the first year. And then the prices on the original Nintendo were like rock bottom, so I could afford to have that system. You know, finally after all that time. And I think I bought that with like Rygar and Mega Man 1. Same thing with my Genesis. I didn't really buy the Genesis until much later. Although I had friends with the Genesis, and I used to work at this video store. And the owners there, you know, they love the Genesis. God, boy, this is hard. I remember this game being easy. Like, I remember beating this, like, within a couple of hours. Boy, I guess I'm just not good at this stuff anymore. I have to say, though, the Master System design was cool. You know, I mean, the original Nintendo was just, you know, it was basically just like a little gray box, and, you know, just from a physical standpoint, the Master System was like a cooler looking system. And you know, technology-wise, it was much more advanced than the original Nintendo. Just didn't have big game support, but that was largely because Nintendo was, you know, they're very, I don't know, they're very controlling of licenses and allowing other game makers to make license games for other systems in the U.S. In Japan, it wasn't so much the case. You know, the licensing system in Japan was nowhere near as strict as it was in the States. So yeah, I mean, cross-license games, those appeared all the time between multiple systems. You know, if anything, I'm Jesus Christ, I'm more of a TurboGrafx guy. I'm definitely more of a PC Engine person from that era than I am either the Super Nintendo or the Genesis. You know, I mean, that's probably my favorite system from that era. And then the Saturn, you know, I preferred the Saturn over the PlayStation 1. Oh god, I'm too fast. And that was a conscious decision. Like again, I didn't buy those systems on day one. You know, when I was finally ready to buy a 32-bit system, I looked at the library of games that were available on both at the time, and you know, at the time, the Saturn was just more my style. You know, I had more of the games that I liked, and I was never unhappy with my Saturn purchase. You know, but I wasn't like playing a lot of games like I do now. I was really busy with work at that time, work and school, so I didn't have as much time to play. So to me, like, the Saturn output of games was just fine. You know, I can't say that I was unhappy with the number of games that I was playing every month. But you know, I did miss out on a ton of games until I bought my PlayStation later. And even then, I think I only really bought a couple of PlayStation games. I own more PlayStation games now than when the PlayStation was out. So, if that says something. Whereas the Saturn, I own a lot of Saturn games. And I imported my Saturn too and modded it to play Japanese games. And then later on, when my Saturn went kaput, I actually bought a Japanese Saturn and modded it to play American games. So yeah, I love the Saturn. And the Dreamcast, of course, I love that. I think most old school gamers like the Dreamcast, right? Just like a lot of old school gamers really like the Xbox 360. That's kind of like Microsoft's, you know, high time was the era of the 360. Then after that, they just kind of lost it. I really don't know what happened to all the management and the game division at Microsoft, but boy, but they are struggling. Not in terms of like raw profit. I mean, Game Pass makes them a ton of money, but just as far as like all the developers that want to develop on systems, I mean, the 360 or the Xbox Series is like the last system any developer wants to develop on, especially if you're an independent developer. You know, there's some funny restrictions on developing for that system. I mean, I looked into it too with my own game, and you know, I couldn't even publish on that system. It's really not friendly to any developer that is not part of a major publisher. Again, that's really more of a general Microsoft philosophy. They, to them, a small independent publisher is like Notch for Minecraft. You know, when they bought Minecraft, that's what they considered a small independent title. You know, something which was selling millions. You know, if you're only selling like 100,000, then Microsoft could give a shit about you. You know, they really do not care about those developers making small games like that. I mean, they say they do, but what they really want is they want a developer with a big name that can sell, that can move like 300,000 or 500,000 units, somewhere around there. And you know, a lot of games that I like don't move 500,000 units. A lot of the games on this channel, the smaller games, they're just not big games, but they still make profit. They just don't make, you know, tens of millions of dollars. It's just weird what Microsoft would consider a small independent developer. To them, that's not what you think of as a small independent developer. They have a totally different definition of what that is. And you know, because they're in this period where they want like a lot of exclusives. You know, they'll write their contracts in a way where you have to provide exclusive features you know, for the Xbox version, which means more development time for a platform which doesn't sell as much. And really, it's not the fact that the platform doesn't have units out there. I mean, the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 essentially have the same number of units out there. I think it fluctuates from time to time, and region to region it depends. But like the Microsoft crowd generally wants to play the biggest games. You know, maybe that's only because that's all they've been offered. But you know, that crowd will buy Fortnite and Minecraft, but it won't buy Carry On, right? I mean, whereas if you're on the PlayStation Store, or if you're on the Nintendo Store, those users will buy Carry On. You know, and maybe that's a bad example because that game's on Game Pass. But you know, if you didn't have Game Pass, you know, it's just something that ecosystem does not do. I don't know why it is. You'd figure that gamers would be the same pretty much everywhere, but you know, apparently they're not. So like a game like this, you know, or maybe even like the Darius collection, which we covered earlier. I mean, that game didn't appear on that platform, you know, not because you know, Taito doesn't make games on the Xbox. You know, they do, but they knew that nobody would buy it on that platform. It's a real shame. I don't know why that is. You know, I wish there was a way to really find out why those users don't like smaller games, or games that are not part of some sort of hype train. You know, Jesus Christ! Holy crap, man! This game is hard. Like, I don't remember it being this hard. I remember playing this through the weekend, and I think I played it maybe. I think I played maybe four times, and then like the fourth time I got to the end. Yeah, I'm just like that much worse over the years, I guess. Oh, yeah, God, this is a lot of stuff after you. I'm just not using my roll enough. Oh, God. Oh, you suck. Wow, I can't believe I couldn't get to the end. See, that's actually what's fun about playing these older games. Oh, you know, the hard thing about the PlayStation 5 and the Series X is that, like, the Series X is a really good machine. It really is. But these first couple games, this first year, like if you were to judge the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X in its first year of games, right now the PlayStation 5 just slams it. I mean, it's really sad too, because a lot of the games that we expected to run better on the Xbox run better on the PlayStation, and that may change over the years. But like, if you're getting the systems now, even if you can, congratulations if you can't get one of those systems, because it's tough. I feel for you if you're looking for one. But like, at least with the PlayStation 5 right now, you can get Demon Souls and you can go, yeah, that's a next-gen game. It looks next-gen, it plays next-gen, loading times are super fast, and you have something that, you know, looks really good. And over the next year, or towards the end of the year, you're going to see things that actually look like next-gen games. You know, you're going to get your Ratchet and Clank, you're going to get Returnal, but then when I look at the Microsoft side, I am struggling to find something other than Halo, which may or may not look any good, that is sort of comparable to that, and that's a real shame. I don't know what happened with Microsoft. So yeah, I think overall, if you're just a regular gamer and you don't care about affiliation, like you just want to play some good games, you're probably not going to find as many of those on the Xbox. The only really cool thing about the Xbox is having Game Pass, but if you're a gamer like me, you buy a lot of games anyway, so like Game Pass to me is sort of useless, because all the good games on Game Pass I bought. And that just leaves like all of the not so good games on Game Pass, which is quite a few. I mean, there's a lot of games on Game Pass, but more than half of those I would not consider good games, and I would not waste my time with. You know, it's cool that they're there. You know, and I'm glad that the developers that do decide to agree to get their games on Game Pass, they get a paycheck at least. But I don't know, man. I just, that is not a system for me. Maybe at some point in time it will be, but you know, I keep waiting for a game. But you know, if you see like the kind of games I play, I mean, I ended up playing stuff on the PlayStation, not because I necessarily want to, but because there's actually something there. And if I'm playing a Game Pass game, you know, if I'm trying something, you know, just for the heck of it, I'm usually not happy with it, which is really sad. You know, again, they do have some good stuff. You know, they have, you know, they had the Yakuza games, which was a good score for them, especially since a lot of people haven't been exposed to the Yakuza games. But, you know, and they have a couple of the indie games. You know, there's like Carry On and, well, I don't think Phoenix is on there, although I don't consider that a good game. But you know, there's some good stuff on there. But like, man, some of the indie games that they pick on there, just like nobody wants those games. I mean, on PlayStation Now, it's not doing any better, and that is the weaker subscription service. But with that being said, I ended up playing more games on PlayStation Now than I have on Game Pass at this point in time, and that's very much like my personal preference. You know, I mean, my personal taste is obviously not normal. No, I mean, here I am playing Vapor Trail, and nobody's like asking me to play this game, or has like fond memories of it. And you know, in general, I think Sony was really smart in how they develop their games and the kinds of studios that they acquire. Whereas Microsoft, they have some high-powered studios that I personally just don't care about. You know, and you know, when they bought Bethesda, you know, that was a big win for them, right? Bethesda makes some like high-quality stuff, you know, high-profile stuff. But then they bought Obsidian, and I'm just like, why would you want Obsidian? You know, they make like one game, you know, one good game like every 4 games they develop. Outside of that, then it's just usually just a very average game or below average game. And then they bought, I don't know, the makers of Psychonauts. The name escapes me right now. And I'm like, that's a company with like an even worse track record than you know, than Obsidian. It's just like, God, why are you making these buying decisions? They're so weird. And they have made attempts to buy like more solid developers, but it's like, hey everybody, are you looking forward to Psychonauts? I'm like, no, not particularly. You know, well, how about Outer Worlds? Yeah, I was until I played it, and then I realized it was just like a box opening simulator. What do? You mainly open boxes in that game. That's pretty much all you do, and wander around aimlessly. Well, I don't know. And then, like, if you see like the Sony system or the Sony games, you know, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I don't know. I think kind of at the end of the day, the PlayStation 5 will do better. Because they have more games that appeal to more gamers, right? So, you know, I think Microsoft will do well with Halo, but that's a very limited crowd. You know, the Halo name isn't what it used to be. And that's not just me speaking, that's just in general sales, you know. I mean, Fortnite has pretty much destroyed everybody else in terms of the multiplayer shooter space. And Call of Duty still exists, Battlefield still exists, but they're nowhere near the same numbers. And that game you can get on any platform. So there's not like a particular reason why you would want to get it on the Xbox, unless you happen to just like that ecosystem. But if you don't care, probably not likely that you're going to get an Xbox. Unless you maybe are considering like the Series S. I think that's one of those systems that you know, it's good if you're into the development scene, the indie scene. That's a good system to have because it's, you know, powerful enough to run, you know, emulators and indie games. You know, you don't need the Series X for that. But they produce the Series S in much smaller quantities than the Series X. Anyway, that's my take on it. I mean, I like both systems, but you know, you see me try to play games on the Xbox, and man, I struggle to find something to play on that thing that I think people would be interested in, and I would be interested in. I mean, so far I've played the Yakuza games, and I bought Phoenix, you know, Rising on that, and boy, I wish I hadn't. That is not a good game. I hear a lot of people on like all the other channels, you know, more independent channels. You know, they're always like, "Hey, you know, Phoenix Rising, that's a game that I was really surprised by. I really like it." I'm like, I don't know what game you're playing. The game is like borderline offensive to me, and only because like the humor is like this Nickelodeon, you know, Disney Channel dumbass humor. You know, where the two Greek gods, they sound like two you know, bad Jewish comedians, you know, with some shtick that they've come up with, you know, 20 years ago. I mean, it really is that bad. That dialogue sucks in that game, and it doesn't drive me to play it, knowing that every cutscene is going to be full of dumb stuff. And the game itself is okay, but it's to the point where it's just average, and the dialogue is annoying. So I'm not buying into to telling people that Phoenix is good. You know, please don't buy that game. You'll be disappointed. And believe me, there's other better next gen games you could buy. You know, you know, buy Dirt. You know, buy Dirt 5. That game's cool. Buy that game if you want a cross-platform game. But wait on Phoenix till like it's like $5. Or if it's on Game Pass and you already are part of Game Pass, then play it there. Don't spend money on that thing. I'm not going to beat this. It's sad to me to think that my skills have degraded so far that I cannot beat this without playing it for quite a while longer. Dropping out of console market. I think that's a hard one to say. I think they'll always be in the console market. I mean, a lot of people have convinced themselves that that Game Pass is their future, and that they don't actually care about hardware, which is silly, right? Microsoft does care about hardware. They care about moving hardware units because moving hardware units is good for investment. You know, if you're showing that you can move hardware units, then you're also showing that people can be attached to Game Pass. So to say that they don't care about hardware units at all is ridiculous. The good thing about Game Pass is that it's multi-platform, so they can sell it to PC users. Although Game Pass for PC is not great, to say the least. And I'm someone that bought it. You know, I bought you know, Ultimate, and I have yet to even play a single Game Pass PC game. Mainly because the only way to play a Game Pass PC game is to use the Microsoft Store, and the Microsoft Store is terrible. You know, you only want to buy something from the Microsoft Store if you're forced to. You know, it's not like the Epic Store where there's like there's a pretty good interface on the Epic Store. The Microsoft Store is not good. But yeah, I don't really see Microsoft exiting the hardware market. It's too lucrative, right? The investment's too good, and the return can be really good. You know, they are classically a software company, and so like most of their strategy is based on selling software and not, you know, and selling software across multiple platforms. You know, Microsoft Office runs on Windows and Mac, and it makes just as much money as it does on Windows as it does on Mac. So, So it's a smart strategy for them, and that's what they're used to doing. But the console market is completely different, and so if you want to secure consoles, that secures your capital in the gamer's mind, right? Because I don't think Microsoft can really gain a foothold without some form of console. Now that may be like Stadia, where they just sell you a very, very fancy dongle, along with a Game Pass subscription. But to me, that's still a piece of hardware, and it's also something that you can get into the gamer's mind. So yeah, I'm not gloom and doom on Microsoft. I think they'll be around for quite a while. This certainly won't be their last console, and the next console won't be the last console, at least if I'm understanding how they work. And I don't mean to really crap on Microsoft, because man, Microsoft gave me lots of good times with the 360. I mean, they gave me an HD version of Radiant Silvergun, which I'm eternally grateful for. They gave me a remake of Guardian Heroes, which nobody was interested in besides them to finance. At Xbox Live back in the 360 days was really incredible. I played a lot of games on the 360. But the one really really exposed a lot of the weaknesses of how Microsoft evaluates their products. And they haven't corrected themselves with the Series X. Again, it's sad, because I think that system could do well, but I don't. I think they're still going to lose to Nintendo. That tiny company who they thought that they could buy out, back in the Xbox One days. That insignificant company that nobody cared about. That was that had a tiny amount of revenue. That's the company that's going to end up beating them. So, and not just in Japan, which is where they don't have a chance in Japan, but everywhere. And it's interesting that Microsoft has so many resources, but because of the way they work, they can't dedicate resources to that creative mindset that makes a video game. I think what they do is they look at a lot of public data. Meaning there's sales data that's generally available, and they look at things like I won't say bulletin boards. I mean, obviously they don't look at those, but they generally look at an accumulation of data from things like hardcore sites, and then just based on those numbers, that's how they make their gaming decisions, which was not how it worked when they were making the 360. That was completely different than their philosophy than it is now. I mean, regardless, Microsoft's making money, so whether or not they're successful or they're even number one in the console market for the Series X, I mean, it's all fairly irrelevant for them. They don't have to be number one in order to make enough money to pay for the development of the Xbox and the Xbox brand name. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, what's your opinion? Yeah, I only know some stuff because I mean, I don't work with the in the IT fields for video games. I just work in the IT fields for things related. So, and I get a whiff of a lot of stuff from different people. The IT world is actually very, very small. You will always run into the same people in every conference, in every chat board, in every Slack channel. It's the same people that work in the industry for the last 20 years. That they just sort of change the deck chairs, move from company to company when they need a raise. And like I said, I don't have super insider knowledge. I just know more of the business end. rather than the IT end. The technology end, I don't know what they're doing. You know, I couldn't tell you what chipset they're going to buy. I can just tell you, I can tell you generally that you know, certain manufacturers out there offer more incentive to use their chipset. You know, when they were shopping for chipsets for the next-gen systems, you know, AMD had the you know, they had the sexiest offer, even though NVIDIA did have a technically superior chipset that they were willing to offer Sony and Microsoft, but you know, they didn't have a great deal. Plus, NVIDIA wanted a bigger piece of that sales, you know, much like how Microsoft got screwed with the original Xbox by not owning it, all of that silicon. Again, you know, rookie mistake on Microsoft's part, but they learned now. You know, now they own everything as far as the silicon and the die and the technology surrounding it. But I don't know, and I think if you've been a gamer for a while and you're just looking at how businesses make decisions, I think you're probably going to come to the same conclusions if you don't have a fanboyism in mind. You know, if you look at the decisions and the games that are made for Microsoft, then you can tell they're not really made by creative people. I mean, the companies that they buy and the announcements that they make, and even the shows that they have, the trade shows, you could just see that it's you know, it's the business department running things and not the creative department. Which makes sense, you know, but Sony, you know, Sony is willing to lose some money, at least the Sony Sony Games, not Sony Pictures, but Sony Games is willing to lose some money in order to put out a product which they think is good for the creative ecosystem, right? So if they're funding something like, well, they're not funding Returnal, but if they're funding a game that's like Returnal, from their own studio, like a Gravity Rush. You know, they're willing to fund Gravity Rush, even though Gravity Rush, you know, isn't a multi-million-dollar seller. But just having that kind of game published by them on their platform makes the kind of gamer that likes Gravity Rush, meaning the hardcore gamer, you know, people like you and me, it makes us like them more because they give us a game which is tailored for us, even though they know it won't make as much money as making, you know, Doom exclusive on your platform, right? Making Doom exclusive on your platform is a good business decision, but making like Fall Guys on your platform is just a good, you know, gamer decision because that's a gamer for gamers, right? Or maybe I should say Valheim. Maybe Valheim is a better example. And so you are naturally going to get those big spenders, you know, that are willing to buy games and buy them in bulk, you know, the hardcore gamers. Those are the people that want that weird shit. You know, they want that weird shit, and they're spending their money on it. It's a smaller crowd, but it's the hardcore crowd, and the hardcore crowd comes onto well, maybe not a channel like this. This is a super niche channel, but they're the ones that are logging into like Spawncast. Or TechWave, or you know, stuff like that, and they're the ones creating the discussion and, you know, getting people to buy other stuff. So to me, that's like, if you want to be successful, then you have to lose some money and also do things which don't make some business sense sometimes. What those things are just really depends. You know, Nintendo does that all the time. If you look at their franchises, even their core franchises, they take a lot of risks with things that are not Mario and Zelda. And even with Zelda, they kind of took a big risk making a Warriors game with Zelda, right? That's not something that most people would think would be a good idea, but it turned out to be a really good idea for them. You know, most people probably, like, if you were to ask Sony and Microsoft, you know, would you buy Monolith Soft? It wouldn't make any sense. They wouldn't buy Monolith Soft because that's a company that makes niche games, niche hardcore games, that are not necessarily million selling units, but, you know, Nintendo bought them because they're like, well, you know, we need that kind of game because we need that kind of gamer that plays that game. That kind of gamer that plays that game will buy other games, and it's proven to be true, right? You have Xenoblade Chronicles on there, and the hardcore gamer that buys that, pretty much they've bought other games too. right? Whereas if you have a gamer that that just likes Fortnite and Minecraft, they may not actually buy other games. You know, they're really, really happy with that experience, you know, that live service experience. But they're hardcore gamers in the fact that they play a lot of games, you know, and they're like, you know, writing about them or telling their friends about them. But they're not really hardcore gamers in terms of like buying lots of games. So if you can get that gamer that buys lots of games and give them the kind of games that they like, then they're going to stick around for a while. And again, I think Microsoft knew that in the 360 era. You know, they made a ton of money off of that. Sony did happen to make more money at that time, but that really didn't diminish people's mindset. You know, people were really, really faithful to Microsoft because the Xbox and the 360, you know, were giving them so many good games. And then by the time you hit the Xbox One, you know, a lot of those users abandoned Microsoft because it's only the very few people that care about brand name. Most of us don't care about a brand name. You know, if we see a game that we like on a system, I don't necessarily care if it's only 4K HDR on the Xbox Series X. If it's not 4K HDR, if it's, you know, 2144 or you know 1960p on my PlayStation 5, but I'm still getting the game and still getting the experience, you know, I really couldn't care. You know, I don't need an Xbox for that, and you know, if Microsoft can get out of that thinking, then I think they can be successful. I don't know if they're going to turn it around for the Series X. Kind of doubt it, just based on all the decisions they made so far. And I will say, but you know, it's hard to get like a hardcore gamer like me that plays old games. It's hard to really sell me on something unless you're willing to give me some sort of experience that is like my hardcore old-fashioned game. You know, Sony already gave me that with the PS5 and Demon's Souls. You know, I mean that gives me that experience that I want right off the bat. Microsoft, I guess they gave me Yakuza, but you know, we've had Yakuza for a year already on other platforms, so I guess that's good. But you know, one series is definitely more exciting than the other, and though Yakuza is probably like you know, the better game, right, as far as like the amount of time that you spend on it, you know, and the one that won't give you a heart attack. Demon's Souls is probably the one that you want to play because that is, you know, that's the game that is more exciting, you know, in the hardcore gaming circles. I don't know. It's all my opinion. You know, obviously nobody's making money or asking for my opinion when they're making sales decisions. I just know that I spend a ton of money on games, and as a consumer of games and knowing a little bit about the business decisions behind it, you know, I wouldn't bet on Microsoft this time around. If anything, I would be very, very surprised with what Nintendo does next. I think they have them. I think they have the most to lose, since they're the #1 system at this point in time. So whatever decision they make for their next system, you know, barring the, you know, whatever the new Switch or the Switch Pro, you know, they don't really consider that part of their equation. Whatever decision they make, I think that's probably the one that's going to guide the industry for the most part. You know, because they made every good decision. They said, we're going to get all the big games that want to come along, except for EA. And we're going to let every independent developer out there, regardless of their skill level, as long as they make a game that doesn't, you know, crash the firmware and is available for everyone, we won't be able to give them a 99-cent game like they are getting in the mobile space. They're going to have to sell the game for more than that. But we also won't say you can't make a game here. I mean, that pleases pretty much everyone. You know, if you want to buy a game for $350, at least it's there. You know, maybe you don't want to play it on your phone and you're okay with playing it on a controller, then you have that option. Whereas you're looking at Microsoft, and that's just peanuts to them. They have no concern for a game like that. And Sony, it will really depend on whether or not they think that the game's going to catch on, whether they'll allow that $5 game to come on there, right? I mean, they allowed Among Us to come on, but that was only, you know, much later when XQC made it popular. But like Nintendo would have allowed that on day one, you know. I mean, that's just their philosophy. It's like, oh, well, does it run on our system? Okay. But you know, and I found a ton of games that I really like on that system. And I'm finding more and more on PlayStation, but I'm finding less and less on the Xbox. Again, it's too bad. I wish it wasn't that way. I wish they were better at making, you know, decisions for a hardcore gamer. They're really good at making decisions for one-time gamers. You know, again, they're hardcore gamers too, and that they're playing every day. You know, they're playing Fortnite and Valheim, but they're just not. They're a different kind of hardcore gamer. Yeah. People say that Microsoft's going to drop out of the console. I mean, those are just console wars. You know what? Yeah, we already went through the console wars with Nintendo and Sega, and you know, I don't care. You know, it's not like Microsoft is my friend. You know, Nintendo certainly isn't my friend. I mean, they've sent me, you know, many notices regarding coverage of their games, which is why I don't actually cover like specific games anymore. Same thing with like Warner, you know. I mean, I can't be a Warner fan, you know. I mean, what good is it to be a Warner fan or a Sony fan? It doesn't do you any good. They're not paying your commission, you know. You know, they're not going to help you out if you're broke, you know. So, really, all you do is look at who makes the best games out there, and if they give you a console at a reasonable price, something that you're willing to pay for, and it looks like the future is going to be good for them, then yeah, that's who I care about. You know, Sony, yes, I like a lot of their games. I may not like the company as a whole, but man, you know, if you can pump out something like Demon's Souls and Spider-Man, Miles Morales, then I'm probably going to like you. You know, if you pump out something like Gears of War 5, you know, I'm probably not going to like you as much. You know, sometimes you're going to give me something which I can tell is just not that great, even if it's part of a brand name. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Maybe my opinion will change with Halo, but again, I don't believe Halo is a big governing force anymore. I think people care about Fortnite more than Halo. I think they care about Call of Duty more than Halo. You've got a dedicated fan base for Halo, but you know, to me, Halo hasn't been good since Halo 3. You know, Halo 4 is ridiculous, and Halo 5, I mean, does anybody really play that seriously anymore? I struggled to think somebody would actually be dedicating their time to that anymore. Now, even though they made tons of money, right? They made tons of money initially. I think it's slowed down since the DLC's kind of slowed down and the community's kind of broken now. But yeah, they got people initially, hooked them in, and then after that, once they proved that the content wasn't going to be there, then everybody just kind of walked off. You know? Anyway, I've babbled on long enough. I'm making this a Let's Chat channel. which, you know, I don't think I could ever get away with. It amazes me when I see, you know, people on Twitch or YouTube that can just have, like, you know, thousands and millions of followers just by doing Let's Chat. Gosh. What a talent. I mean, and I don't mean that sarcastically. I mean, man, that is very, very difficult to keep people entertained, even about games, and just to talk to them and not even play something. My hat's off to them. You know, that's amazing. And to think that, like, if this was 10 years ago, and they went to broadcasting school, or they went to like a Hollywood agent, or you know, they'd go to any place else to get a job, you know, I guarantee you, if you know, Pokimane or PewDiePie, you know, went to CBS or NBC and they said, hey, you know, I have a great idea for a show. I'm charismatic. You know, can you give me a show and I can prove how entertaining I can be? They'll laugh those guys off the face of the planet. Like, what? You're gonna go on a game show, or you're gonna make a show where you talk about games with your dumbass accent and your non-Hollywood looks, and you're gonna expect me to believe that that people are gonna watch you? It's like, yeah, people will watch you. You know, I love that Twitch and in some ways YouTube, you know, basically gave Hollywood the finger. You know, you don't need to go to broadcasting school and sound like somebody on the radio to be popular. You know, you don't need to. Well, I don't know if you don't need to yell anymore, but you don't need to do all the things that they said you had to do in order for people to watch you. You know, as Twitch and YouTube has proven, you know, all that formula stuff, which they said, oh, for sure, you know, you'll never make it. You know, now those people are making it, and more power to them. I love them for that. I mean, I want to watch them because they're super annoying, but yeah. I hope more people are like that. I hope we just discover more people that, you know, just can talk to people and be enjoyable and not necessarily be somebody that, you know, would have hosted, you know, TMZ or Entertainment Tonight. You know. But that's enough for me. Let's play some games here after lunch. I don't know what I'm playing. Hopefully something cool. Oh, yeah, we're gonna do some more Capcom Arcade Stadium too. But yeah, I'll see you guys then. Hopefully you enjoyed the time together, and we'll talk soon.